History flows like a river. Tell us what happened today in history.
Today, 175 years ago, May 24, 1844, American inventor Morse experimented with the world's first telegram. On the table were Morse's manual telegraph, the one on the left, and Weston's hammer telegraph. For thousands of years, communication technology has stagnated for a long time. Even if foreign enemies invade and border cities are in urgent need, the quickest way is to send documents by post and horse, besides giving alarm to wolves and smoke. In the mid-17th century, the British Navy carried out the flag language. At the end of the 18th century, the French government established a signaling system, which solved the difficulty of fast transmission of information by sea and land to a certain extent. Key changes in communication technology took place in the mid-19th century. In the autumn of 1832, on a cruise ship from France to the United States, a young doctor was explaining the function of the electromagnet. Recent experiments have shown that the more wires wound around the coil, the stronger the attraction of the electromagnet as the current passes through the wire. The experiment also proves that no matter how long the wire is, the current can pass instantaneously. Soon science will produce the miracle of electricity creation. Samuel Morse, an American present, remembers these words. He associates what he sees with the French signaling system, which can only transmit a few miles by sight at a time. If electromagnetic signals are transmitted by electric current, can they be transmitted thousands of miles in an instant? Since then, Morse's life has undergone a fundamental change. Morse was born in 1791 to a priest's family in the United States. When he was young, he studied painting and sculpture, and held several leading positions in art groups. He abandoned the road of art covered with honor carpet and turned to electricity in his infancy, risking failure and climbing on the rugged summit of science and technology. During the trial manufacture of the telegraph, Morse lived in extreme hardship, sometimes even starvation. He saved money to buy experimental equipment. In 1836, he had to rework his old career as an artist to solve the problem of livelihood. But he never interrupted his research work. With unremitting efforts and the help of friends, Morse finally succeeded. Using the different signals produced by alternating the current with and without it, he compiled a code representing letters and numbers, the famous Morse code. Between 1837 and 1838, he built a telegraph that could transmit signals over short distances. Long-distance experiments require a lot of money. He applied to Congress for $30,000 to build a telegraph line connecting Washington and Baltimore. It was not until 2 years later, in March 1844, that Congress approved the appropriation. The telegraph line was finally completed. On May 24, 1844, Morse sat in the Federal Supreme Court chamber of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and sent the first long-distance telegram in history to Baltimore, 40 miles away, with trembling hands. Morse's telegraph has been widely used after many improvements. From then on, the outbreak of war, the conclusion of peace treaty, the advent of storms, the discovery of fish stocks. All kinds of news are transmitted quickly by telegraph. In 1858, many European countries jointly awarded Morse a prize of 400,000 francs. In Morse's twilight years, New York City created a statue for him in Central Park, using great honor to compensate for the fault that had left the scientist hungry. Today, 26 years ago, on the 24th of May 1993, Eritrea became independent. On the 24th of May 1993, the newly independent Eritrea held its founding ceremony in Asmara. The first president was Isaias Afwerki. Eritrea is located in the throat of the Red Sea and is an important Horn of Africa country. It became an Italian colony in the 1980s and was occupied by Britain during World War II. In December 1950, the United Nations adopted Resolution 390, by which Eritrea was decided to form a federation with Ethiopia as an autonomous unit, allowing Eritrea to have its own constitution, parliament and independent government. However, shortly after the establishment of the federation, the Ethiopian government suspended the constitution and parliament of Eritrea, and in 1962 adopted a resolution on the integration of Eritrea and Ethiopia, making Eritrea a province of Ethiopia. Over the past 30 years, the Eritrean people have waged a long and unremitting armed struggle for independence. They have finally taken control of the whole territory of Eritrea and established an interim government. They have decided to hold a referendum under international supervision to determine the political future of Eritrea. The results of the 23 to 25 April referendum show that 99.8% of Eritreans are in favor of independence. On the 3rd of May, the Ethiopian Transitional Government expressed its acceptance of and respect for the choice of the Eritrean people. Our government sent special envoys to attend the celebration of the founding of Eritrea and signed a joint communiqué with Eritrea on the same day announcing the establishment of diplomatic relations at the ambassadorial level between the two countries. On the 26th of May, the United Nations adopted a resolution to accept Eritrea as a new member of the United Nations. Eritrea profile. Eritrea is located in the eastern part of Africa. It is a sea passage from the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean. It covers 124.320 square kilometers. The coastline is 1,013 kilometers long. Population 3.5 million, mainly Tigra, Alpha, Saho and other tribes. The main languages are Tigranian, Arabic and English. Residents are mostly Christian and Islamic. Formerly a province of Ethiopia. Independence on the 27th of April 1993. On May 24, 1993, China established diplomatic relations. The terrain is dominated by plateau and mountainous areas, which belongs to tropical climate. Fishery resources are abundant. The economy is dominated by agriculture, with 40% of the population engaged in agriculture and animal husbandry. The mode of production is backward, and grain cannot be self-sufficient. Asmara, the capital, has a population of about 400,000. The largest urban and agricultural and livestock products distribution center in China. Today, 25 years ago, on May 24, 1994, the French Prime Minister declared that there was freedom to restore nuclear testing. In his speech to the National Assembly on May 24, 1994, French Prime Minister Elbaradel said that France is not bound by any international treaty on whether to resume nuclear testing. The French National Assembly began a general debate on the French Military Planning Act 1995-2000 proposed by the government on the 24th of July. Speaking about whether France will resume its nuclear test after the 1995 presidential election, Elbaradel said, "I can assure you that we will preserve the freedom of this choice." President Mitterrand said recently that the next president of France could not make a decision to resume nuclear testing because of the renewal of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons and the conclusion of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1995. In explaining to the National Assembly the government's draft military plan for 1995 to 2000, French Defense Minister Lyotard said that by 2000 France would have the largest army in Europe and its military budget would be the second largest in the Western world. On May 24, 2002, Russia and the United States signed the treaty between Russia and the United States on reducing strategic offensive forces. On May 24, 2002, Russian President Putin and President Bush signed the treaty between Russia and the United States on reducing strategic offensive forces and the joint declaration on new strategic relations between Russia and the United States in Moscow. The treaty stipulates that by the end of 2012, Russia and the United States will reduce their respective nuclear warheads to 1,700 to 2,200. This is the first time in nearly 10 years since the end of the Cold War that the two countries have signed an agreement to reduce nuclear weapons on a large scale.